They actually, you know, they told me off. They said that because I am unmarried, because I don't have children, meaning, in other words, that I am a child, and therefore I need to go and get myself in good order socially so as for me to come and seek a position. These young men and women, mainly under the influence of drugs and intoxicating substances, actually wish quick death or premature death upon their parents who are the elderly so that they can quickly succeed.
We have even had some have already killed some.
Yes, they kill their parents so they can succeed their properties and their estates. When these sexual offenses like rape and sodomy happen against the aged, you know, these young women, these young men who commit these crimes mainly go scot-free. And sometimes even when they are arrested, it becomes really difficult, you know, even for the legal process to take charge against them.
Hello viewers, my name is Lucy Mworia. I'm the CEO and founder of Lucy Mworia Network, which is a YouTube channel that is focusing on aging and retiring. This show, again, I said, is not just about the aged, it's about aging, which is a process. It starts from the day you were born. And I said we are going to engage with several stakeholders in this show so that we can understand more and bring out issues, solutions that are affecting our elderly people and the aging as well. Today, we have a guest. Our guest today is a young Kenyan woman lawyer who has accomplished so much. She is a constitutional law and a human rights lawyer. She has studied in the field of gender and the law. She is a professional mediator, accredited by the Kenyan judiciary. She has worked for Komisa Court of Justice, Khartoum, Sudan, done a lot of community work with women, elderly youth, and PWD in Kiambu County and Kenya at large, contested in the just ended general election as a senator in Kiambu County. Let's welcome our guest today, Wakili Alice Wangari Gathekia.
Thank you for having me.
Ms. Gathekia.
Yes.
Senator, Wakili.
Yes, how are you?
Karibu sana.
Yes.
Now, at age 30,
yes,
you wanted to be the senator of the famous Kiambu County in Kenya.
Yes, I wanted to be the senator, and I still want, and I believe I'm still the people's senator for the famous and populous Kiambu County. I contested under Tujibebe wa Kenya Party, which is a constituent partner party of Kenya Kwanza coalition legally. Although politically it may bring other connotations, but the law is what it is, and we still are under the Kenya Kwanza coalition.
Ms. Gathekia,
yes,
don't you think that is too much ambitious? I am sure there are so many senior elderly senators who had contested before, but you dared. Is that not too much ambition?
No, it's not too much ambition because we are only as old as our dreams. And I believe that these seats are not age definitive. When I say age definitive, I mean that they have been established by the Constitution without a rider as to age. Remember that the Constitution only gives term limits. It does not give age limits. And that is because of reference to Article 27, which removes every barrier, be it age, be it gender, be it religion, be it creed, be it regional, where you come from regionally, geographically, and all those things. And therefore, it would bring in the theme of discrimination if at all we talked about age limit. And therefore, that means that anybody of any age is free to contest for any specific seat. However, for the seat of the woman representative, it being a position of affirmative action, I strongly believe, and I will continue to peddle this gospel, that it is a seat which is a preserve for young women.
Oh.
Yes.
So, Ms. Gathekia,
yes,
do you think that it is being peddled now that there's a lot of discrimination also among the young ones, also the elderly.
Yes.
As a politician and a young woman who is in politics, now that when you become a member of parliament or a senator,
Yes.
you not only be dealing with the youth.
Yes.
Do you experience any discrimination, either your way or the other side of the elderly during your campaigns?
That's true. Discrimination is both sides. I, as a candidate, experienced discrimination from the more senior, contestants or even the more senior electorate. One, because they look at you from the angle of less experience. And so you would hear them say that you know your work, you know the roles of a senator, but you're too young. So you need to undergo some form of political training or mentorship before you come and seek a political office, which notion I disagree with. Because oftentimes, the young people are dynamic, they are bubbling and bursting with experience and fresh ideas, which are very important for a dynamic world and also for governance. Because remember, out there, the world is moving and we need to catch up with the current trends in the world. And that can only be done mainly by a young person who is quick to understand and has received the adequate training from school and also from interaction, so as to merge the training with experience and the global continuities that are happening. I remember one time when I attended a certain church service, and after explaining to people about the roles of a senator, which I believe I was the only candidate who was versed with and had the courage to explain to people, owing to the fact that the previous senator who had occupied the position for 10 years was only riding on the wave of euphoria. This is a person who people had never seen on the ground. He was only used to asking people for votes, through SMSs, and that's how he used to pass every election. And therefore, he never took the time to explain to people the roles of a senator. So when I went to this church, I explained to them very well. They were marveled by my wealth of knowledge and experience and understanding of the duties of a senator. But still, the pastor stood and said that, "Oh, madam, you're very impressive. You have a good grasp of your duties. However, you are a child."
Jesus.
And that was a way of guilt tripping me. It actually gaslit me, because I thought now that was a way of him trying to discredit me, that I'm not fit for the position simply because I am not mature to their expectation. Also, my fellow contestants, and some of them were even gubernatorial candidates, they actually, they told me off. They said that because I am unmarried, because I don't have children, meaning, in other words, that I am a child. And therefore, I need to go and get myself in good order socially, so as for me to come and seek a position.
So, Ms. Gathekia, this business of discrimination is like the two ways.
Yes, it's two
The
ways.
youth feels discriminated.
Yes.
The elderly feels discriminated.
That's true.
Is this the reason why recently we had a bill which was about to come by the legislators that they wanted to limit the age limit for president to be not less than 75 years?
I think that is political mischief. And the day that such legislation or such proposal arrives at the House in Parliament, I would want to urge the parliamentarians to treat it with utmost contempt, because one, it is against the values of the Constitution, against discrimination, where anybody can vie for any seat at whatever age. So the Constitution lifted the age limit and only established term limits. Secondly, I also feel that it is mischievous as to the ends of it, that it aims at spiting a certain individual, and that is inhumane. It is also insensitive, and it is against anybody's human rights, because they have a right to vie. After all, they are Kenyan citizens. That is the underlying factor for you to become a political candidate. Either way, Madam Lucy, I would like to say that on the side of the elderly, they are discriminated in the sense that their political rights are really not taken into consideration, especially during elections. Why? Because mostly the government, national and county, both have overlooked the fact that these elderly, they need civic education. So most of the times they are tricked and they are beguiled by the people who guide them when they are going for elections. And so those people tell them that we are choosing this way, but they don't give them the sufficient reasons. These elderly need to understand, for example, the duties of an MCA. They need to understand what the MP can do for them. They need to understand what the woman rep can do for them. And for example, the position of the woman rep, it being an affirmative action position, is beholden to, serve the elderly. There is a kitty for the elderly under the NGAF, National Government Affirmative Action Fund. When you go to the MP has Uwezo Fund, which is a kitty that helps in uplifting economically groups of women. There are older women who, deserve to be served by that kitty. Who is there, for example, to explain to these people about those things? When you go to the national government, and agents of the national government is the president and the member of National Assembly. There is the kitty for pesa ya wazee, older persons, control fund or something like that. Then again, it is under the Ministry of Gender, Public Service and Social Protection. So who is there to explain to them that there are a myriad of benefits that are accruing to them so that they can have the courage to go and ask for those? Most of our elderly people, you realize, are very vulnerable. One, they lack information. Two, they're struggling with health conditions that do not allow them to move with swiftness, and therefore they need a lot of assistance. Most of them are also persons with disability, unfortunately, but it's because of, their declining health status. Most of them are either physically or intellectually challenged.
I have this question now from the political point of view. Yeah. You've traversed the whole of Kiambu, yes, seeking for votes.
Yes.
Are there experiences, are there incidences that you might have come across concerning the elderly and the issues of the elderly in the county?
Yes, there are quite many.
Yeah.
And I'm sad to report that most of them have gone unreported. You only hear them, at least from the pillars in the community.
These are from your experiences?
Yes, from my experiences. Okay. One of them is the intergenerational conflict between the young persons and the elderly, who mainly are their parents, and that mainly arises from succession disputes. These young men and women, mainly under the influence of drugs and intoxicating substances, actually wish quick death or premature death upon their parents, who are the elderly, so that they can quickly succeed.
We have even had some have already killed some.
Yes, they kill their parents so they can succeed their properties and their estates, which range from movable to immovable properties, houses, tracts of land, agricultural produce and vehicles, and so that they can sustain the insatiable drinking habits. That is one of them that requires mediation. And if we had the care and protection of older members of the society bill, I also would propose that we have a clause on mediation for especially succession disputes in that bill. Also, on this issue of GMO importation, we need to hear from the older members of the society who are vulnerable health-wise on what they need to do, and how they need to be consulted on the importation of this product. So again, from some of the experiences I had, one of them is that intergenerational conflict. The other thing is a stigma from members of the public. Remember that most of these elderly people live with disabilities, as I had alluded to there before. Most of them have physical disabilities and also intellectual disabilities. They have depression and dementia. And so some of them, because of the long-standing challenges, they have even, gone mute. They cannot express themselves anymore. And so members of the public, especially now the younger ones who are, they are into crime, therefore take advantage of their vulnerability, and they manipulate them and even commit sexual offenses against them. And in the Sexual Offences Act, unfortunately, they have not focused on the welfare of the aged. So when these sexual offenses like rape, and sodomy happen against the aged, you know, these young women, these young men who commit these crimes mainly go scot-free. And sometimes even when they are arrested, it becomes really difficult, you know, even for the legal process to take charge against them. Why? Because the victim is not able to express themselves. You know, they are incapacitated in one way or another, and that's another challenge.
Maybe they are deaf.
Yes, they are
Maybe
deaf,
they are
dumb,
yeah.
They are crippled, and also they are traumatized, and therefore they cannot freely express themselves and record whatever happened before the court. Remember that some of them even have mobility challenges, so even making it to go to court and testify is a problem.
Not even testifying, even yes. going to report at the report office.
Exactly, yeah. Even at the office.
Yeah.
And then remember again, you know, the culture of our security system is that it does not, you know, it is indifferent, you know, to the plight of the vulnerable in the society. If at all, even an energetic young woman, when she is raped or assaulted by her husband at home, when she goes to report, then they are told to, you know, to go and sort that out through alternative dispute resolution means. You know, so meaning that our security system has a culture of indifference towards the plight of the vulnerable, and that is something that needs to change. You know, I look forward to a day where our society system is going to, you know, be overhauled through training and update training, so as to, you know, be in touch with the current trends, the dynamics of crime in our society. So those are some of the issues that I experienced mainly in the society. Unfortunately, I also have a neighbor who is deaf, and she is a person with disability, and she's elderly, and so I have witnessed, you know, her relatives keeping her at home, and she's not allowed to interact with members of the public. She's just, you know, she's stigmatized, she's kept aloof of everybody, and you know, she's just treated like an outcast. And those are some of the issues that, you know, need to be pointed out. And again, remember that healthcare is a challenge for them. So again, when they go to the hospitals, the doctors and the nurses, they do not give them adequate attention. And again, remember, our healthcare system is also not, you know, trained in a way that they can address the issues of persons with disability, especially the deaf and dumb. So the doctor, most of the times, often prescribes for them because he or she is not able to understand.
As a government, you
yes.
like someone is supposed to take responsibility.
Yes.
There are all these benefits
yes.
in the county government,
yes.
in the national government,
yes.
in the ministries,
yes.
with the MP, with the women rep,
yes.
whose responsibility is that, who has not done their job to make sure that the elderly get their rightful things that they need to have.
Now, one thing I would say is that there is a gap in terms of legislation and policy regarding the welfare of the elderly. There is a bill that was proposed by the Senate, but unfortunately it remains a bill. It is called the Care and Protection for the Elderly Bill, and it was actually drafted in 2018. But when you go to the archives, it vanished. I believe that after debate at the Senate, perhaps it was taken to the National Assembly, because under Article 96, they talk about bills can either emerge from the Senate to the National Assembly and vice versa. But because of the teething problems and the power play games that go on between the Senate and the National Assembly and the flexing and the what, so then I believe that the bill was not taken forwarded to the president.
Our Senate, our parliamentarians,
yes.
to them this bill which is coming, which is supposed to take care of their elderly, the people
yes.
they go to seek votes for,
yes.
it's not important to them. It just becomes a write-up. It just becomes something to keep in the archives. So what do you think should be done?
I believe that that bill, as I went through it, is a good bill, but it needs more empowering. They need to put in more substance into it, because mainly it is outlining the rights of the elderly, which rights, in fact, that bill emanates from Article 57 of the Constitution, which talks about the rights of the elderly.
Who is this they? They need. Who's them?
No, the Senate now. So it talks about the rights of the elderly. So then what happens is that they need to focus on all the areas of vulnerability of an elderly person.
Which are so many.
Yes, there are so many. For example, in succession disputes, in land ownership disputes, in hospitals. Remember that these are people who need constant care, and also with the kitty that is usually given to them by the national government. Remember that we said it's called the Older Persons Cash Transfer Program. And that program was actually enacted in the year 2007. And also it has been copied into that bill of the care and protection of elderly persons. But however, the money that they're given is only 2,000 shillings. So you can imagine with these harsh economic times, what can 2,000 do for you? Very minimal. And these are people who have a cocktail of diseases, a cocktail of physical challenges, and they also need to eat a healthy diet. They need to, go for counseling now and then. They have mobility challenges.
Some of them do not have pensions.
Exactly.
They never worked for anyone before.
Exactly.
Like 20% only of the population. They are the only ones who ever worked for the government.
Exactly.
The 80%, they struggled, they were hustlers until they are aged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And they face a lot of challenges. Some of them even they have the burden of paying for their caretakers or their caregivers. Again, the question of training the caregivers, that is something else that also needs to be embedded in that bill. Because I have done my research through the health sector, and I have realized that the caregivers legislation is not there. So it is only these private hospitals that are giving trainings to caregivers for the elderly, and that is something that the government needs to come in and regulate and subsidize the fees for training of caregivers. And sadly, most of those caregivers are usually trained so that they can export their expertise and labor to the Western countries, US, Europe, where it's lucrative. But here in Kenya, people just look for affordable caregivers.
And
most
those
of them are not
caregivers
trained.
who they go to take care of them?
Yeah.
They go take care of the elderly in other countries where the governments are planned for their people. So that's why you see all these exodus of our nurses and doctors leaving the country just to go and take care of the elderly. And here you leave your elderly here, not to blame the doctors, but is there structure? What is going on?
There are no structures. There are no structures. And again, I said it's because that bill has not been effected. Because again, it also gives provision for the establishment of homes, the procedure for regulation and monitoring of those homes where the elderly are taken care of, and how even those homes, can be deregistered, and, the procedure of running those homes to make sure that they're up to standard.
Ms. Gathekia,
yes.
When you contested for the Senate of Kiambu,
yes,
I'm sure you had a manifesto.
Yes, I did.
Did you have the elderly feature anyway in your manifesto?
Yes, I really had them featured, especially under, the special interest groups. And for me, I was looking at how
elderly.
Yes, because they are also special interest groups.
They are also,
Remember that the elderly also need affirmative action, and that is why they have been placed under Article 57 of the Constitution. Article 55 talks about the youth, which is also a special interest group. And then Article 56 talks about the implementation of affirmative action for those special interest groups. So what we need are proper social protection programs for these special interest groups. And unfortunately, in this country of ours, social protection has been downplayed. I even went through the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, and the only thing they talk about under social protection for the elderly that captures maybe the need of the elderly is to subsidize the health care for everybody. So the elderly are included there, subsidizing the hospital fee and also the medication fee, just that through KEMSA. But again, they need to streamline the operations at KEMSA for them to subsidize and avail medicine to all the hospitals.
As a constitutional and a human rights lawyer in the country, as young as you are, very brilliant.
Thank you.
I would like you to tell the viewers, what have you done so far? Because you have done a lot of things you have accomplished.
Yes.
What have you done so far regarding the elderly? What are you planning to do in the future to make sure the lives of the elderly change in this country?
One, I am planning to write to the majority leader of the Senate, who is Honorable Aaron Cheruiyot, and I want him to revive that bill so that now it can again be taken to the National Assembly, and I want it to be fast-tracked. Yeah, so that we can now cater for the needs of the elderly. Secondly, I will also sit with the Council of Governors and all the governors and look to ensure that they also implement the health reforms which are going to capture the elderly, especially on affordable health care, access to mobility equipments like wheelchairs and you know, the walking equipments, and also to ensure that the community health workers, the CHVs, also they are actually integrated into the healthcare system of the counties, and they are paid because those are the people who mainly have the data and they know where the elderly are and the needs that they have. They also need to establish a database in all the you know, the health facilities, a database for the elderly and their needs, especially the health needs. So those are some of the things that I plan to do. I have already started doing some of them, especially in my home county of Kiambu, and I will continue to, you know, seek partnership and collaboration with those institutions.
Thank you very much. We're almost coming to the end, and now before we finish, because this show, the Lucy Mworia Network, takes care of everyone. We say this is a platform where the young, the elderly, we all sit and identify, highlight the issues in our society and also giving solutions. So can you, before you close, look at the viewers, tell them, tell the young, can you give some advice to the young, advice to the elderly, and that parliament of ours as we close?
Okay. To the young, I would say that, you know, being youth is not a disability, and being youth is not a state of body or mind. It's just, you know, an age group. So make the most out of it. You can be whatever you want to be. You can be a leader. You can make all the difference. You know, in your years of youth, that is when you are energetic. So use it to change country. To the elderly, I salute you. Thank you so much for all the struggles and the selflessness and the formative years that you have had, you know, to bring us forth, this generation. And we pray that you continue, you know, you continue giving us support and also assisting us so that we can also, you know, assist you in whatever needs you have. Reach out to us. And then to Parliament, please, it is time to work. Can you fast track that care and protection bill for the elderly? Wakati ni sasa, na kama sio sasa ni sasa hivi. Asante.
Thank you very much. Senator is incoming senator. She said she's not still stopping. She has to become the Senator of Kiambu. Thank you so much. And viewers, we have Senator Gathekia, our young lawyer, who is fast-tracking on the bill of aging with the Senate and with the parliamentarians. Thank you so much. Like I said, age is inevitable. It starts the day you are born. We all age. Good evening.